Everyone on my street had an unspoken rule about the house at the end. No one pointed at it. No one talked about it. And if a guest asked why the streetlights stopped before reaching that far, we changed the subject. I moved there 3 years ago, into a narrow 2-story rental halfway down the block. It was quiet, safe, boring in the way suburbs usually are. Kids rode bikes in the evenings. Lawns were trimmed with military precision. Neighbors waved but never lingered long enough for real conversation. Except when it came to the house. It sat at the very end of the cul-de-sac, half hidden behind a leaning oak tree and an overgrown hedge. The first week I lived there, I asked my neighbor Carol about it while we were both collecting mail. "Does anyone live in that house?" I asked casually. She didn't answer right away. Her hand tightened around her letters. "It's best not to worry about it," she said, and walked inside without another word. That was my first clue something was wrong. Over time, I noticed patterns. Delivery drivers never went that far. Kids turned around before reaching the last driveway. During block parties, the tables stopped a full house length away, like an invisible boundary had been drawn. One night, after a few beers, I asked another neighbor, Mark, about it. He stared at me for a long moment, then said, "Look, man, just don't go near it. That's the rule." "What rule?" "The one everyone follows." I laughed it off then. But the longer I lived there, the heavier the silence felt. Like the street itself was holding its breath. Not clear shapes, just the sense of someone standing where they shouldn't be. Once I thought I saw a light flicker behind one of the upstairs windows. The next morning, it was gone. Same dead house, same silence. I started having dreams about it. Dreams where I was standing in the street, every neighbor watching from their windows, their faces blank. It was a Tuesday. Cold, quiet, nothing unusual. I was up late working when I heard shouting outside. At first I thought it was kids messing around, but then I heard screaming. Real panic. A man was stumbling down the street from the direction of the house. He looked disoriented, barefoot. His clothes torn like he'd been dragged through bushes. His arms were wrapped around himself like he was freezing. He pounded on Mark's door first. "Help me!" he yelled. "They won't let me leave!" Lights flicked on inside Mark's house, but the door didn't open. The man ran to Carol's place next, then the Hendersons, then my own neighbor across the street. He knocked, screamed, cried. No one opened their doors. I could see silhouettes behind curtains, faces watching, waiting. My heart was racing. This wasn't some prank. This man was terrified. I grabbed my jacket and ran outside. The moment my foot hit the pavement, someone shouted my name. "Don't!" Mark hissed from his porch. He hadn't stepped outside, just cracked the door enough to speak. His face was pale. "Go back inside." "What the hell is wrong with you?" I yelled. "That guy needs help!" The stranger collapsed in the middle of the street, sobbing. "They said I could leave," he cried. "They said it was over." Carol finally stepped onto her porch. Her voice shook. "You shouldn't have come out," she said to me. "You don't understand." "Then explain it." No one answered. That's when the man slowly turned his head toward the house at the end of the street. The front door was open. Something was standing in the doorway. It was tall, too tall, thin in a way that didn't look human. I couldn't make out its face, but I knew it was watching us. The man began screaming again, backing away. "No, no, please, I did everything you asked." The thing moved, not walking, gliding, closing the distance impossibly fast. The man tried to run. It caught him by the arm. He didn't scream this time, just looked at us, at me, eyes wide with betrayal as he was pulled backward, scraping against the asphalt, back toward the house. I tried to move. I couldn't. The front door closed. Silence returned to the street. No one spoke for a long time. Eventually, Mark stepped fully outside. He looked 10 years older than he had an hour earlier. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said quietly. "What was that?" I asked. He swallowed. "The cost." That's when they finally told me. Years ago, before I moved in, something came to that house. No one knows what it is. No one knows where it came from. All they know is that it offered a deal. Safety. No break-ins, no violent crime, no missing children, no tragedies. Property values rose. The street became a perfect little bubble. In exchange, every so often, someone who didn't belong would be drawn to the house. A drifter, a runaway, someone with no ties. And the rule was simple. If they came back out, no one helped. Ignoring the house was part of the agreement. Pretending it didn't exist kept it contained. And if someone breaks the rule? I asked. Carol met my eyes. Then it starts looking closer to home. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, there were police cars on the street. They asked questions, took statements. No one mentioned the man. No one mentioned the house. By the afternoon, the street was quiet again. A week later, a for sale sign went up in front of my house. I hadn't listed it. I asked Mark about it. He didn't look surprised. It's probably time, he said. It knows you saw. That night, as I packed, I noticed something new, a faint light, glowing from the window of the house at the end of the street. And for the first time since I'd lived there, someone was standing on its porch, waiting. The first time it happened, I assumed it was a mistake at exactly 2:17 in the morning. There was a knock on my front door. Not loud, not frantic, just 3 slow, deliberate taps, the kind you'd expect from someone who knew you were home. I checked my phone. 2:17. I remember that because I thought it was an oddly specific time to be awake. I lay there for a moment, listening, waiting to hear footsteps retreating down the porch steps. Nothing happened. After about 30 seconds, I convinced myself it was a drunk neighbor or someone at the wrong house. I rolled over and eventually fell back asleep the next night. It happened again. 2:17. 3 slow knocks. This time I sat up in bed, my heart already racing. I live alone in a small house on a quiet street. No bars nearby, no late-night foot traffic. The kind of neighborhood where even a passing car feels out of place after midnight. I grabbed my phone and turned on the camera app, pointing it toward the bedroom door like that would somehow help. I waited. The knocking didn't repeat. Eventually, I got up, crept to the front window, and peeked through the blinds. The porch was empty. No one standing there, no car idling at the curb, just the porch light humming, and moths bouncing against the glass. The third night was when I realized it wasn't random. I was awake before it happened, staring at my ceiling, waiting when my phone flipped to 2:17. My stomach tightened right on cue. The knock came. 3 taps, same rhythm, same spacing. This time I went to the door. I don't know why. Curiosity, maybe. Or the stupid belief that if I could just confront whatever it was, it would stop. I didn't open it. I just stood there inches away, my hand hovering near the lock. "Hello?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. No response. I leaned closer, my eye level with the peephole, and looked out. There was a man standing on my porch. He was tall, thin, and dressed like he'd stepped out of another decade. Dark slacks, a button-up shirt, no jacket despite the cold. His hair was neatly combed, his hands folded in front of him. He wasn't looking at the door. He was looking slightly to the left, toward the house next to mine, like he was waiting for someone there. I stood frozen, barely breathing. After a few seconds, he turned, stepped down from my porch, walked next door, and knocked. 3 slow taps. The neighbor's porch light didn't turn on. No one answered. The man waited exactly the same amount of time. He'd waited at my door, then moved on to the next house. I watched him walk down the street, knocking once at each home, never repeating himself, never rushing, just methodical, patient. The next morning, I asked my neighbor if he'd heard anything overnight. He frowned. "Heard what?" I described the knocking, the man, the time, the color drained from his face. "You saw him?" he asked quietly. That's when he told me. Apparently, the man had been coming through the neighborhood for years, always at 2:17, always knocking on doors, always moving on when no one answered. Everyone had learned the same rule: don't open the door. No one knew where he came from. No one had ever seen him during the day. And no one, except me, had ever admitted to seeing his face. "He knocks on the wrong door," my neighbor said. "That's what matters." I didn't understand what he meant. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with all the lights on, watching the front door like it might explode inward. 2:17, 3 knocks. I didn't move, I didn't breathe. The knocks didn't stop. 3 more, then 3 more. Slow, calm, insistent. My phone buzzed. A text from my neighbor. "Don't answer. Whatever you do." The knocking continued for a full minute before it finally stopped. I heard footsteps on the porch. I waited, counting in my head, then rushed to the window. The man wasn't walking to the next house. He was standing at the edge of my lawn, staring straight at my front door. Even from a distance, I could tell he was smiling. The next morning, I went to the police. They listened politely, took notes, and asked the kind of questions that made it clear they didn't believe me. No reports, no security footage, no evidence. One officer finally said, "Maybe it's someone playing a prank." That night, the knocking didn't come. Neither did it the next night. A week passed, then 2. I started to relax. I told myself whatever it was had moved on, found another neighborhood, another set of doors. Then one night, I woke up to the sound of knocking. Not on my front door, on my bedroom door. 3 slow taps. I bolted upright, my heart slamming against my ribs. I live alone. No roommates, no pets. The bedroom door had been closed when I went to sleep. "Who's there?" I whispered. The handle didn't move. The knocking stopped. After a long, shaking minute, I got up and opened the door. The hallway was empty, but my front door was wide open. The next morning, I found muddy footprints, leading from the porch through the house and stopping right outside my bedroom. That's when I understood what my neighbor meant. New locks, new city, new routine. For a while, I slept fine. Then last night, I woke up and checked my phone. 2:16. I held my breath. 2:17. 3 slow knocks echoed through my apartment, not at the front door, from inside the closet. And this time, he knocked back when I screamed. I didn't open the closet. I couldn't move at all, waiting for the hinges to creak, waiting for something, anything, to prove I wasn't about to die in my own apartment. Nothing happened. After what felt like an hour, I grabbed my phone and called 911, whispering my address. No one in the closet, no signs of forced entry, no footprints, no damage to the lock. The officers exchanged looks I recognized immediately, the kind that says we've seen this before and it doesn't end well. Before they left, one of them asked me a question. That made my stomach drop. "Has anyone ever knocked on your door late at night before?" I didn't answer. The next morning, I went down to the leasing office and told them I was moving out immediately. I didn't care about the fees. A woman from the building next door watched me quietly. She looked tired, older than she probably was. "You saw him, didn't you?" she asked. I nodded. She hesitated, then said, "He knocks on doors until someone answers. Once he knows what time you wake up, he doesn't need the door anymore." I asked her how she knew. She pulled up her sleeve. There were 3 faint bruises on her wrist, perfectly spaced, like fingerprints. I don't live there anymore. I don't live anywhere long. I move every few months. Never unpack fully, never sleep without a light on. And every night, no matter where I am, I wake up just before my alarm, 2:16, and I don't wait to hear the knocking anymore because I already know what time he prefers. And I know he's very patient about finding the right door. The first time I noticed the pattern, I told myself it was coincidence. People had been going missing in my town for years, not all at once, just often enough that it became background noise. A jogger who never came home, a teenage girl whose car was found abandoned, an older man who vanished on his way back from visiting his sister. Small town stuff, people said. Folks leave, folks run. But I work nights, and when you work nights, you start noticing things. Other people don't. I'm a delivery driver, mostly overnight routes between warehouses and convenience stores. Same roads, same stops, same lonely stretches of highway. One of those stops was a gas station just off Route 11, right at the edge of town. It was old, always half-lit, with buzzing fluorescent lights and pumps that looked like they'd been there since the 90s. Everyone called it Miller's Gas. It was the last place open before the road turned dark and empty for miles. I stopped there almost every shift. Coffee, bathroom, sometimes just to stretch. And over time, I realized something unsettling. It crept up on me, a face on a corkboard at the grocery store. Last seen stopping for gas late at night. Always late, always alone, always there. I mentioned it once to my coworker, Jared, while we were loading pallets. "Dude," he said, laughing, "everyone stops there. It's the only thing open." That should have been enough to shut me up, but it didn't, because I'd been there too, hundreds of times. And the more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt, not about the place itself, but about the man behind the counter. His name tag said Cal. Tall, thin, gray hair combed straight back. He never smiled, but he was polite in a quiet, deliberate way. He remembered what cigarettes people bought, remembered faces, remembered names. I told myself that was just good customer service, until the night the girl came in shaking. It was around 2:30 I was at the coffee machine when the door flew open. She rushed inside. Early 20s maybe. Hoodie too big for her. Eyes wide like she'd been crying. She went straight to the counter. "I think someone followed me," she said, voice trembling. Cal didn't react, just looked at her calmly. "Did they come inside?" he asked. I don't know. I didn't look." "Then you're safe," he said. "Take a breath." Something about the way he said it bothered me. Too confident, too final. She glanced around, then noticed me. Relief flickered across her face. "Can you wait here with me?" she asked. "Yeah," I said immediately. Cal rang up her water, slow and methodical. "You heading far tonight?" he asked her. She hesitated. "Just home." He nodded. "Long drive?" "About 20 minutes. Road's empty this time of night," he said. "Easy to drift." The girl stiffened. "I'll stay a few minutes," she said, more to herself than anyone. She stood near the cooler, scrolling on her phone, hands shaking. I finished my coffee and leaned against a rack, pretending not to stare. After maybe 5 minutes, she relaxed a little. "I think I'm okay now," she said. "Thank you." She looked at me again. "You leaving too?" "Yeah," I said. "Same direction." She smiled faintly. "Good." We walked out together. Her car was parked at the far pump. Mine was closer to the building. As I opened my door, I glanced back. Cal was standing just inside the window watching us. Not casually, not like a bored clerk. He was staring at her. She got into her car. I did the same. I pulled out first, waited at the exit. She never came. I sat there, engine idling, headlights washing over the pumps. A minute passed. Then 2. I looked back. Her car was gone. No headlights, no engine noise. Just gone. I assumed she'd pulled out behind me and gone another way. Until the next week. Her face appeared on a missing person flyer. Last seen at Miller's Gas. That's when I stopped going there. I switched routes, took longer drives, packed my own coffee. I avoided that stretch of road entirely, but the thought stayed with me, and then my brother disappeared. Evan was driving back from a late shift. He texted me around 1:50. Tank full. Keys still inside. Police asked the usual questions. Did he have enemies? Was he depressed? Any history of leaving suddenly? I didn't answer right away. I drove to Miller's Gas. The place looked the same. Buzzing lights, empty pumps, Cal behind the counter. He looked up when I entered. "Rough night?" he asked. "You see my brother?" I said. His eyes flicked to my face, studying it. "Lots of folks pass through," he said. "Don't do that," I snapped. "He was here." Cal was quiet for a moment. "People come in looking for directions," he said slowly. "Some ask for help." My chest tightened. "Help with what?" "Getting where they're going." I stepped closer to the counter. "You're lying." Cal sighed, almost sadly. They all say that eventually. A door behind the counter creaked. I hadn't noticed it before. A narrow door, half hidden behind shelves. "Where is he?" I whispered. Cal met my eyes. "Still here," he said. The lights flickered. I don't remember crossing the counter. I just remember being on the other side, heart pounding, pushing past him. The door led to a hallway. Narrow, concrete walls. No windows. The air smelled like fuel and something worse. There were doors on either side. At the end of the hall was a room lit by a single bulb. Inside were chairs. People, sitting, standing. Some crying quietly, some staring blankly. My brother was there. He looked thinner, hollow. "Evan," I said. He turned slowly. "You shouldn't have come," he said. Cal appeared behind me. "They don't leave," he said calmly. "They arrive." I don't remember how I escaped, just that I ran until my lungs burned. And my car felt like salvation. The gas station burned down 2 weeks later. Electrical fire, they said. No bodies were found. The missing cases remain unsolved. Same buzzing lights, same empty pumps. And inside, a familiar man behind the counter, watching, waiting, ready to help.